He couldn't stand to see her happy, not with someone else. What began as love turned into an obsession so dark it consumed every part of him. When she moved on, his ego couldn't take it. His pride couldn't bear it. And if he couldn't have her, no one would. In the quiet suburb of Deltona, Florida, a young man named Patrick De La Cerda waited at his front door for a package, a symbol of love, a ring for the woman who had stolen his heart. But as he stood there, dreaming of a future with his fiancée, someone was already watching. Hidden, waiting, planning to end it all. The package never came. What arrived instead were 4 bullets, delivered by the jealous ex who refused to let go. This is a story of love twisted into obsession, of a promise turned into a death sentence. This is the story of Patrick De La Cerda and the man who couldn't let her go. You're watching True Crime Wound, where we uncover the darkest sides of love and betrayal. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, so you don't miss the next story. June 2017 should have been just another summer month in Florida. But across the digital landscape, 2 souls were about to collide in the most modern of ways, through a dating app called Plenty of Fish. Patrick De La Cerda was 25 years old, the kind of young man who made his parents proud. Hard-working, genuine, with his father Max's strong work ethic and his mother Patricia's warm heart. Patricia had moved from France years ago, and she'd raised Patrick to value authenticity over appearances. Patrick worked construction alongside his father, building things with his hands, earning every dollar through honest sweat. His home sat on a 9-acre property in Deltona, modest but peaceful, the kind of place where you could hear the birds sing and watch sunsets paint the sky orange and pink. His mother would later remember the day he told her about Jessica, the way his eyes lit up, the certainty in his voice when he said, "Mom, this one is the one." Jessica Devnani was starting over. At 29, she'd just ended a relationship that had consumed 8 years of her life. She was looking for something real, something honest. When Patrick's profile appeared on her screen, she saw someone different. No pretense, no games, just a young man with a genuine smile and kind eyes. Their first date felt like coming home. They talked for hours, discovering they'd been waiting for each other. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Patrick loved the outdoors, exploring new places. Jessica matched his energy, his enthusiasm for life. Max de la Cerda watched his son fall in love. Patrick really loved her, he would later tell investigators. And Jessica loved him more than anything. They traveled together, explored Florida's hidden beaches, and took road trips down winding coastal highways. They talked about the future, about building a life, about children, about growing old together. By December 2017, Patrick had made his decision. He got down on one knee and asked her to be his wife. She said yes without hesitation. Patrick presented her with a temporary ring while he worked on the real surprise, a custom-designed engagement ring that would symbolize everything they meant to each other. The jeweler promised it would be ready by late February. Everything seemed perfect. But somewhere in the shadows of their happiness, someone was watching, waiting, planning. To understand what would happen to Patrick, you have to go back to before he existed in Jessica's world, back to when another man occupied that space, a man who would never truly let her go. Gregory Bender was 42 when he met Jessica online in 2009. She was 22. Young and hopeful. Gregory seemed perfect at first, charismatic, intelligent, successful. A hedge fund manager who lived in an affluent neighborhood outside Orlando, in a house worth $750,000. He had a very charismatic personality, Jessica would later recall. He was very intelligent. It felt like we'd known each other all our lives. Their romance bloomed quickly. Within a few years, he proposed. Jessica said yes, believing she'd found her partner for life. She invested 8 years into a man she thought she knew. But Gregory had a dark side. The cracks began small. Jessica noticed Gregory had a jealous streak. If she mentioned another man, his mood would shift. The warmth would drain from his eyes. She told herself it was just passion. Then the threats began. Jessica briefly dated someone else early in their relationship. Gregory's reaction terrified her. "He did stalk the person that I was dating," she testified. "He described exactly where he lived, and he said that he would tie him up and harm him." It should have been a deal-breaker, but Gregory had a way of making her doubt her instincts. He'd apologize, explain it away, promise it was just words. "I never feared what he could do to me," Jessica admitted, "but I feared what he could do to other men." Still, she stayed. For 8 years, she stayed. Because leaving someone who loves you too much feels cruel. Because she'd invested so much time, so much emotion. Then came the day that changed everything. In 2016, Gregory underwent a medical procedure and was recovering in a hospital ICU. Jessica decided to surprise him with a visit. She walked into his room with a smile. Another woman was already there. For a moment, the two women just stared at each other. Then the other woman spoke. "What are you doing here?" Jessica felt her world tilt. "I'm his fiancée," she said, showing her engagement ring. The other woman raised her left hand. A wedding band glinted in the fluorescent light. "I'm his wife." Damara Sanchez and Jessica stood in that hospital room, both wearing rings Gregory had given them, both believing they were the only woman in his life. The truth hit them simultaneously. Gregory had been living a double life, married to Damara, engaged to Jessica, lying to them both. "My heart just dropped," Jessica remembered. "I couldn't believe it. I was in shock." Jessica walked away. 8 years ended in a hospital room, shattered by a truth she should have seen coming. She deserved better. She deserved someone like Patrick. Breaking up with Gregory should have meant freedom. But for Gregory, losing Jessica meant war. He tried calling. She blocked his number. He sent emails, messages, texts that grew increasingly desperate. She ignored them all. Then she met Patrick in June 2017, and everything changed. Within weeks, Jessica knew Patrick was different, genuinely kind, emotionally available, capable of honest love. She fell hard and fast. They made their relationship Facebook official. They posted photos together. They weren't hiding. They were celebrating. Gregory Bender saw every post. In his Orlando home, sitting behind computer screens, Gregory began tracking Jessica's new life. He scrolled through her Facebook obsessively. He saw Patrick's face, saw their happiness, and something inside him snapped. The first message arrived on Patrick's Facebook account. Gregory introduced himself as Jessica's ex. The words were polite at first, but the subtext was clear. "She's mine. Stay away." Patrick showed Jessica. They agreed to ignore it, but Gregory didn't stop. The messages intensified. Gregory started describing Patrick's home, details he shouldn't have known. "I know where you live," he wrote. "I'm going to harm you guys." Then came the voicemails. In one recording played in court, Gregory's voice dripped with menace. "I'm giving instructions, and I'm going to have my plan put into action." Jessica felt the old terror returning. "He would message me saying if I didn't leave Patrick, he would harm Patrick," she testified. One text was particularly chilling. "Think about it. If I don't hear from you or the cops call again, I'll just do what I said and move on." Patrick installed more security cameras. He and his father added a gate to the property. They called police multiple times, documented every threat, saved every message. But Gregory was clever. He knew how to walk the line between threatening and prosecutable. Then he manipulated Jessica using psychological tactics that had kept her trapped for 8 years. He claimed he was suicidal. He begged for just one meeting to get closure. He said that if I went to see him, he would not harm anyone, Jessica explained. She met with him, trying to protect Patrick, trying to calm the monster she'd once loved. Gregory secretly recorded these meetings, videos he'd later try to use against her. By October 2017, Patrick filed for his own restraining order. It was denied, insufficient evidence. But in December 2017, Jessica tried again. This time, the judge agreed. The order was clear, no contact with Jessica, and critically, Gregory was ordered to surrender his extensive gun collection. Gregory never complied. Without probable cause, police couldn't force entry to seize the weapons. The restraining order was, as Sheriff Mike Chitwood would later say bitterly, nothing but a piece of paper. For 2 months, Gregory stayed quiet. No calls, no messages. Jessica and Patrick exhaled. Maybe he'd finally let go. Patrick's custom engagement ring was almost ready. He tracked the package obsessively, planning the perfect moment to give it to Jessica. February 27, 2018 was supposed to be that day, but Gregory had spent those 2 quiet months planning something else, something methodical, something dark. In a spiral notebook, he'd written it all down. Maps, timelines, the location of Patrick's property, how to approach, what to wear, how to disappear. He'd written it like a business plan, because his goal was murder. February 27, 2018, 7:18 a.m. Max De La Cerda's phone rang. He was already at a construction job over an hour away. The voice claimed to be a delivery driver with a package for Patrick. He needed through the gate. Could Max call his son? Max found it odd. The timing seemed strange. The caller's tone felt urgent in a way that didn't match a simple delivery. When Max offered to call back, the man refused to leave a number. Red flags. But what could they mean? Max tried texting Patrick. No response. He tried calling. No answer. His son was probably still asleep. Max returned to his job. The real horror was already unfolding. At 10:06 a.m., Jessica's phone rang. Gregory Bender's number flashed, the first contact in 2 months, breaking the restraining order. She didn't answer. He called again, 10:08 a.m. Those 2 calls told her everything. After 2 months of silence, why would Gregory suddenly call? Jessica felt terror grip her chest. She immediately thought of Patrick. She tried calling him. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Something was desperately wrong. Jessica called Max. He still hadn't heard from Patrick. He asked his girlfriend Shannon to check. She was closer to the property. Shannon arrived first. The gate was open. Unusual. She drove up the driveway, heart pounding. The front door was open. Glass glittered on the ground. Shannon approached slowly, calling Patrick's name. Patrick De La Cerda lay just inside the doorway, face down in a pool of blood. 4 bullet wounds, head, face, chest, hip. He'd been dead for hours. Shannon screamed. Minutes later, Jessica arrived. She'd been driving frantically, praying she was wrong. When she saw the police cars, the yellow tape, Shannon's tears, she knew. My whole future was taken away, she would later say. My whole world was taken away. Detective Chad Weaver arrived at the scene around 11:35 a.m. What he saw told a story of calculated murder. Spent shell casings littered the area near Patrick's body. 300 blackout ammunition used in high-powered semi-automatic rifles. The rounds were close together, suggesting skill or multiple shots to ensure the kill. When we saw the shell casings, with how close they were to the body, we immediately realized that this was a calculated murder, Detective Weaver recalled. This was planned. The front door showed forced entry. Patrick had opened it expecting a delivery, the engagement ring. Instead, he'd met someone with a gun who fired through the door before Patrick could react. The killer had been lying in wait, positioned and ready. But what chilled investigators? Patrick's laptop was missing. So was the digital video recorder connected to the security cameras. The killer had taken them both, wiping away footage that might have captured his face. This wasn't just planned. This was executed with forensic awareness. No robbery. Nothing else taken. Patrick's wallet, phone, valuables, untouched. This was targeted. Personal. By 7 p.m., less than 12 hours after the murder, Gregory Bender was arrested. Not for murder yet, for violating the restraining order. Those 2 phone calls to Jessica gave police enough to bring him in. Jessica had told Detective Weaver about Gregory immediately, about the threats, about how he'd promised to have my plan put into action. Gregory was the obvious suspect, but obvious doesn't mean provable. Without the security footage, without DNA, without the murder weapon, Detective Weaver needed more. What he found would exceed his wildest expectations. The murder dominated local news. Patrick's picture appeared on screens across Central Florida. A young man killed in his own home. In a home not far from Gregory's Orlando residence, a woman watched with growing horror. Daymara Sanchez, Gregory's ex-wife, recognized something in the description of Patrick's murder. She'd seen something months earlier, something she'd convinced herself was fantasy. Now she realized it wasn't fantasy at all. Daymara was terrified. She knew Gregory's temper. But she chose justice. Through her attorneys, Daymara contacted Detective Weaver. She insisted on meeting in a secluded location. She was that afraid. In a parking lot, Daymara told Detective Weaver about December 2017. She'd been packing to leave Gregory when she found a blue spiral notebook filled with his handwriting. Maps, bullet points, detailed notes. It was a plan to kill Patrick De La Cerda. The notebook described Patrick's property, layout, gate, security cameras. It outlined what Gregory would wear, how to disguise his vehicle, which phones to use. It specified timing, approach angles, escape routes. When Daymara confronted Gregory, he'd brushed it off. "This is just fantasy. I would never do anything like this." She'd wanted to believe him. But watching the news, she realized Gregory had been drafting a blueprint, and he'd followed through. According to Daymara, there were maps and these bullet points, and this whole plan drawn out to kill Patrick, Detective Weaver explained. When she told us about the murder plan, that gave us what we needed to get into the house. On March 1st, 2018, 2 days after Patrick's murder, Detective Weaver's team executed a search warrant on Gregory's home. What they found defied belief. Multiple firearms, dozens Gregory had been ordered to surrender but kept hidden. Among them was ammunition matching the 300 blackout rounds found at Patrick's scene. But the real evidence was in the junk drawer. A single spent shell casing, 300 blackout. Ballistics testing confirmed it matched the casings at Patrick's body. It came from the same gun. Investigators found burner phones, disposable cells that couldn't be traced. They found notes about Patrick's property, about Jessica's schedule. Then Detective Weaver walked to the kitchen trash can. On top of the pile sat a crumpled piece of paper. He smoothed it out. "I was in shock," he later said. "There's no way that we just found this murder plan." It was all there, written in Gregory's handwriting, a step-by-step guide to murdering Patrick De La Cerda. The plan specified approaching early morning, using a burner phone to call Patrick's father, pretending to be a delivery driver, getting through the gate, waiting for Patrick at the door, shooting him, taking the laptop and security footage, changing clothes, disposing of evidence, creating an alibi. Gregory had written it like a to-do list, then followed it exactly. If Gregory had simply taken out his trash, this evidence might have been lost forever. But he hadn't. Cell phone forensics revealed Gregory purchased burner phones weeks before the murder. One burner made only 2 calls. one to Gregory's personal phone to test it, and one to Max De La Cerda at 7:18 a.m. On February 27th, the delivery driver call. Cell tower data showed the burner traveled from Gregory's Orlando home to Deltona that morning, specifically near Patrick's property. After the murder, the phone went silent forever. Armed with physical evidence, witness statements, and Gregory's own written confession to premeditated murder, Detective Weaver charged Gregory Bender with first-degree murder on March 1, 2018, May 25, 2021. 3 years after Patrick's death, Gregory Bender finally faced trial. The courtroom was packed. Patrick's family sat in front. His mother, Patricia, with red-rimmed eyes, his father, Max, stone-faced. Behind them sat Jessica, wearing the engagement ring Patrick had given her. She'd never taken it off. Gregory Bender, now 54, sat at the defense table. 3 years in jail had aged him. He stared straight ahead, expression unreadable. Prosecutor Andrew Urbanock delivered his opening statement with methodical precision. Patrick De La Cerda was 25 years old, Urbanock began. He was planning his wedding, designing an engagement ring, building a future, and Gregory Bender couldn't stand it. He couldn't take that Jessica left him and wouldn't come back because of Patrick De La Cerda. So, he decided if he couldn't have her, no one would. And he decided Patrick had to die. Defense attorney Richard Parker offered a different narrative. This case is about the difference between fantasy and reality. People should not be judged on their worst thoughts just because they put them to paper. Jessica Devnani took the stand first, hands trembling. "It was really hard," she later said. "I was really nervous." But her testimony was powerful. She described the 8-year relationship, the hospital room discovery, moving on with Patrick, Gregory's violent response. Jessica read threatening texts. "Think about it. If I don't hear from you or the cops call again, I'll just do what I said and move on." She played voicemail recordings. Gregory's voice filled the courtroom. "I'm giving instructions, and I'm going to have my plan put into action." The defense showed secretly recorded videos Gregory had made, Jessica meeting him for lunch in late 2017. They suggested she was cheating, that she never really left Gregory. "Why are you dining with Greg in November 2017 if you're happily moving on with Patrick?" Parker demanded. Jessica's answer was devastating. "Because the defendant was threatening and I was trying to calm him down. He said that if I went to see him, he would not harm anyone. I was trying to protect Patrick, and it didn't work." Daymara Sanchez testified about finding the murder plan in Gregory's notebook. She described confronting him and believing his fantasy excuse because accepting she'd married a potential murderer was too horrifying. Detective Weaver walked the jury through the evidence, the cell phone data, the ballistics match, the murder plan found in Gregory's trash, the meticulous nature of the crime. The defense grilled him about forensic evidence. "Any DNA from the scene?" Parker asked. "No, sir," Weaver admitted. Gregory had left no DNA, but the absence of forensic evidence didn't mean innocence. It meant the killer had been careful, professional, just like the plan specified. Cell phone experts testified about tower pings showing the burner phone's journey from Orlando to Deltona that morning. Ballistics experts confirmed the shell casing match. Digital forensics specialists detailed the burner phone purchases. Gregory Bender never took the stand. His attorneys argued the evidence was circumstantial, that planning something doesn't mean doing it, that reasonable doubt existed, but the jury saw through it. They saw a man consumed by jealousy, a man who'd spent months planning revenge, a man who'd written down every detail of his crime and followed through. After deliberating, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty. First-degree murder with a firearm. In the gallery, Jessica sobbed. Patrick's mother held her tight. Max De La Cerda closed his eyes, exhaling 3 years of tension. Gregory Bender showed no emotion. At sentencing, Judge Raul Zambrano addressed Gregory directly. "You are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." Jessica gave a victim impact statement, her voice breaking. "Patrick was my soulmate. He was everything I ever wanted, and you took him away because you couldn't stand that I was happy. You destroyed my future. You destroyed his family. And for what? Because your ego couldn't handle rejection." Patrick's mother, Patricia, spoke through tears. "My son was kind, loving, hard-working. He had his whole life ahead of him. You took my baby from me. I will never forgive you." Gregory Bender was led away in handcuffs. He would spend the rest of his life in a Florida prison cell. Today, Gregory Bender sits in prison, serving life without parole. He maintains his innocence, claiming the evidence was misinterpreted. But the facts speak for themselves: a detailed murder plan, cell phone data, ballistics evidence, and the testimony of two women who knew him best. Jessica Devnani still wears Patrick's engagement ring. She's rebuilt her life, but the trauma remains. "I lost my whole future," she says. "Patrick was supposed to be my husband, the father of my children. Gregory stole all of that." Patrick's family has tried to find peace. Max De La Cerda returned to construction work, building things with his hands the way he taught his son. Patricia keeps Patrick's room exactly as he left it, filled with memories of the boy who lit up her world. The custom engagement ring Patrick had ordered, the one that was supposed to arrive on February 27, 2018, was eventually delivered. Jessica keeps it in a box, unable to wear it. It represents everything that should have been. Sheriff Mike Chitwood spoke about the case's broader implications. "This shows that restraining orders are just pieces of paper. They can't stop bullets. We need better ways to protect victims when someone shows clear intent to harm." This case is a stark reminder of how obsession can masquerade as love. Gregory Bender claimed to love Jessica, but love doesn't threaten. Love doesn't stalk. Love doesn't plan murder when rejected. True love is what Patrick and Jessica had: mutual respect, genuine care, the freedom to be themselves. Gregory's obsession was possession disguised as devotion, control masked as affection. In the end, jealousy consumed Gregory Bender completely. He couldn't accept that Jessica had found happiness without him. So he destroyed it. He destroyed Patrick. He destroyed families. And ultimately, he destroyed himself. The lesson is haunting. When love turns to obsession, when ego replaces empathy, when control becomes more important than happiness, tragedy follows. Patrick De La Cerda deserved to grow old with Jessica, to give her that custom ring, to build the life they'd planned. Instead, he became another statistic in the deadly mathematics of domestic violence and obsessive behavior. His story should remind us all: love can heal, inspire, and uplift, but when twisted by jealousy, possessiveness, and wounded pride, it can destroy everything it touches. Patrick's legacy lives on in the people who loved him, in the lessons his case teaches about recognizing dangerous obsession, in the reminder to take threats seriously, in the call for better protection for victims. And in the ring Jessica still wears, a symbol not of what was lost, but of what true love actually looks like. Rest in peace, Patrick De La Cerda. You deserved so much more. You've been watching True Crime Wound, where love stories take a dark turn. If this case touched you, please subscribe for more true stories of passion, betrayal, and deadly secrets. Remember, if you or someone you know is experiencing threats or stalking behavior, please contact local authorities immediately. Your life may depend on it.